Hello, how is everybody doing? Welcome to episode 14 of Shanalytics. I'm your host, Ben Meyerson. If you haven't seen my show before, I talk about the 49ers. I try and talk about analytics. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing a bunch of Niners content for the rest of the week. I'll have Jack Hammer on my channel on Friday. We're going to be talking about the 49ers salary cap, a bunch of different stuff. I'll be on actually Jesse Naylor and Jack Hammer show tomorrow night and tonight as well. I'll be on the 49ers all 49ers SI roundtable with Grant and the crew. So everybody look forward to that. And again, make sure you're subscribed to my channel if you aren't already. Swan Song, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really digging the intro too. I might switch it up soon at some point, but for now, that's kind of what I think I'm going to stick with. But, hey, Ekim, what's up? What are you up to? But first of all, the first thing I want to talk about today, and you'll see a little bit more about this as the day folds out for me, is the Jimmy Garoppolo conundrum that the 49ers are in right now. I think the 49ers are going to be stuck in a spot where they're going to have to choose one of three potential avenues with Jimmy, right? I think we all recognize that Jimmy is either going to start the whole season for this team, Trey is going to start at some point mid-season for this team, or Trey Lance just might be the week one starter. So today what I'm going to do is walk you through all those scenarios. And if you do want more content about this, I actually wrote an article for all 49ers SI already. That'll be up in about a few hours after I do this video. So you can look forward to that as well. But first, I want to go and check your comments. Oh, Korean 49er, what's up? Hey, it's great to see you, man. I appreciate all the support. I see you in the Discord all the time. Great alias, but yeah, thank you for coming in and sitting in on the live stream today. I appreciate it. But let's get to the first thing I did want to talk about, and let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. Let's talk about whether his chances of actually playing every single game of 2021. Now, there's some obvious outside factors that are going to affect Jimmy this season, like a new quarterback and the cap going down with the pandemic and Jimmy becoming a much more expensive quarterback, right? So I think the part of this that to me is the obvious part that kind of sticks out immediately that is a red flag for all 49ers fans is that Jimmy Garoppolo has played 25 games of the last 48 he's been available for in the 49ers for the regular season. Not only that in those last three seasons, right? But even going back to Jimmy Garoppolo's New England Patriots days, we saw this from Jimmy Garoppolo. He had the AC joint sprain then. He's been dealing with all kinds of injuries his entire career. And I think the really scary part of that too, even if you're being optimistic as a Jimmy fan, is that you recognize that these are all unrelated injuries that happen to different body parts with Jimmy, right? It's his knee in 2018. It's his ankle in 2020 with the Patriots. It's his shoulder. So with Jimmy, I don't know if it's as much about will he stay healthy rather than how long will he actually stay healthy. Like, I think if the 49ers have the actual expectations that they want Jimmy to start every single game and him for them to be their starter, I just don't know if that's realistic for this team to expect right now, given all the data we've seen from Jimmy and just everything he's proven to us throughout his time with the 49ers. And let's set aside the injury thing, because I think that's a conversation that a lot of people have had on their own. We don't have to talk about that anymore. You know why Jimmy isn't durable for this team. Let's instead talk about Jimmy's play. How much of a difference is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be between him and Trey Lance? I mean, really, what is the difference of play level going to be on the 49ers? Because I think when I really dig into this, given all of Jimmy Garoppolo's mistakes that he made, he had 13 interceptions to 27 touchdowns, his best season. I just don't know how much better right at this moment Jimmy Garoppolo is than Trey Lance. Now, I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that the front office, the coaching staff maybe to an extent, but mostly the front office and ownership want Jimmy Garoppolo to be the starter as long as it gets them to the point where they can trade Jimmy. But the only issue with that to me is, like I go back to, is the injury thing. It's like you're really gambling with a lot if you're saying that if Jimmy doesn't, if we want Jimmy to go out and play and prove his worth, right? What if he goes out and does the opposite? Then you're stuck with a $27 million sunken cost sitting on your bench while Trey Lance could be playing right at that moment. Now, the 49ers could cut bait with Jimmy at any time before the trade deadline. They could cut him. They could go about it any number of ways. But if the 49ers want to get ahead of this issue, to me, it doesn't make sense to assume that Jimmy is going to be the starter the entire season. I genuinely think there's probably about a 20% chance that Jimmy actually starts the entirety of 2021 for the 49ers. And the only reason I even put it that high is because of all the noise around Trey Lance when he came out of college. Let's be real. 49ers fans have kind of fallen in love with Trey Lance since the draft, right? Since April 29th. But the problem with 49ers fans falling in love is they've kind of looked past some of the criticisms and some of the fair criticism of him, that he isn't that experienced, that he needs time to develop and get better as a quarterback, and that he needs to get his mechanics better. So I think when you take all of that into account, I think if you would have asked me this question, let's say 3 months ago or 2 months ago, right, when the draft happened, I would have been like, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the starter for this team, maybe the whole season, but probably not, But the closer and closer we actually get to this, I think 49ers fans are starting to actually wrap their mind around the idea that Jimmy could not be on this team by week 1. In fact, I think it's probably more likely than not, and I think it's becoming more likely every single day that Jimmy Garoppolo, or it's becoming less likely every single day that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on this roster by week 1. I think the 49ers are really struggling. They're going to be struggling with that, and they're going to have to make a decision with Jimmy at some point. Because they're going to have to commit to him one way or the other. Now, I just want to go check out the comments really quick. East Bay Chris, shout out East Bay Chris. He's my guy. He's the best. We need to do some Madden streaming, East Bay Chris. Everybody be on the lookout for that. Hey, Korean barbecue is the best, man. I love some Korean barbecue. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, you guys are talking about Korean barbecue. But Korean 49ers telling me a big split needs to happen between Jimmy and the 49ers. The way that Kyle blames him for everything wrong just says what the coaching staff thinks of him, Ben. I agree with you in that sense that, I don't think this coaching staff does believe in Jimmy. I think the one thing is that this team is trying to rehabilitate his trade value no matter what, which I honestly don't understand, because I think when you take into consideration the sunken costs of hanging on to Jimmy Garoppolo for the entirety of the 2021 season, having that $27 million on the books, I just don't know if that's financially prudent. And especially when the 49ers are trying to convince their fans that this is a win now season, it's Super Bowl or bust, all this kind of stuff. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo making 13.5% of your salary cap is irresponsible if you're a Super Bowl contender. In fact, it makes it nearly impossible to win with him. Let alone if he's your starter, but if he's your backup, that's even worse. So I really don't think it's likely that Jimmy plays every game, getting back to what I was talking about earlier, of 2021. And I think it's there. You can point, some people will point to his play on the field. Some people, like Korean 49er, will point out how the coaching staff doesn't believe in him. Some people will point out his injuries. To me, it's the multitude of all these things. Once you wrap it up, once you contextualize the 49ers situation, it makes less and less sense for Jimmy Garoppolo to be the starter. And I think the more Trey Lance shows, especially in preseason, that shift is going to happen fast for 49ers fans who are still on the fence somewhat about Jimmy. East Bay Chris, if you're still in here, I know you put out a poll the other week that was like, who should be the 49ers week 1 starter? And the majority of people in that poll said that they thought Jimmy Garoppolo should be the starter. The issue with that, again, it goes back to the financial thing. You cannot succeed with the quarterback making that much money. Hey, Jason, you're a little late, but it's okay, man. Today was a pop-up stream. Again, just for everybody, if you're just joining or you didn't catch me at the beginning, I'm going to be back tomorrow and today, actually. Today, I'll be back on the 49ers Roundtable in Grant's channel. Thursday, I'll be on the Hammer and Nail show with Jesse Naylor and Jack Hammer. And then Friday, Jack Hammer will be on my channel. So, again, be on the lookout for that, everybody. And Korean 49er, again, with the comment saying, this can't be a must-win season with a backup quarterback that is making that much. When depth is needed at defensive end, cornerback, and even safety. I agree with you, Korean 49er. I think the thing with this is, even if you are trying to convince the 49ers that they are a win-now team, which I don't think they are even with Jimmy Garoppolo off the team, but let's explore this for a second. If you think that, hey, they get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, that's that 13.5% off the books that you're talking about, Ben. They can go and spend all that money. I think the NFC is wide open right now. And if you're trying to convince the fans that this is more win now than I think it actually is, what you can tell them is that there's not a lot of competition. Now, the division is really good. The Bucks are really, really good this season, but gosh, is there really going to be that much competition for the 49ers in the NFC? I question that. And if you're the 49ers and you could potentially get the 1 seed with a Trey Lance or something like that, where you get a bye week, or even, you get that 2-3 and you get a better matchup, things could really turn out good for the 49ers. And I think they could compete in the way that they'll be right in the mix. I don't think they'll be able to get over the hump now. That's just me personally. But I think if you take Jimmy Garoppolo away from this team, you definitely increase their chances to win no matter what. But that does kind of lead me to the next thing. And I'll go through all 3 of these scenarios for everybody, and this is the second of the Jimmy Garoppolo scenarios. What would happen if Trey were to take over mid-season for Jimmy Garoppolo? Now, when I say this, I mean any point in the middle of the season, whether that's week 2 or week 16, right? So to me, when I take that into account, I think the chances of this happening are 75% or higher, honestly, maybe even 80%, because if you look at the history of the last, and I looked this up the other day, and I was on Grant's Discord talking all about this, how if you look back to 2011 on, and you look at all quarterbacks taken in the top 3 in the top 3 picks of any of those drafts, once they instituted the rookie wage scale, all 13 of those guys played at some point in their rookie season. Not only that, but guess what? I think like the lowest amount of games played for any of those rookie quarterbacks is 7 games with Jared Goff. So no matter what, the history shows that it would be the 49ers would be breaking a historical precedence if they didn't start Trey Lance at some point in his rookie season. So I just think the 49ers are wasting time if they don't get Trey Lance on the field as quick as possible. Now, if Trey Lance isn't ready, that is absolutely one thing. I'm not trying to argue that one way or the other. So I just think that for this team, the way they are right now, the way they're built, I don't necessarily think they're going to win now, but what they can do is start moving in the right direction so that they can win in the next couple of years. If you get Trey Lance playing early in his career, you get Trey Lance on the field and he's able to show how he works within Shanahan's office, show his strengths and weaknesses, then guess what? The 49ers will be able to better understand not only the kind of players they want to put around Trey, but hey, after the season, if they get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo in this situation, right, and they don't get that cap space until the next offseason, that's great too, because that means that the 49ers can go build that perfect team around Trey Lance so that they can win right now. I think that's one of the things that 49ers fans have to wrap their mind around, is that if the 49ers want to win the Super Bowl, what they have to be is very self-aware. And when I say this, I mean this specifically, that the 49ers think they're in win now mode and they aren't this year, and they go all in on it. And guess what? That's a lot of money you're spending this season to get to the playoffs, to not go very far. But what I think would be smart would be to say to themselves, okay, maybe we don't think we're going to win this season, right, with our team is currently constructed. But what we can do is maybe sign a few players here and there, maybe trade for Stephon Gilmore with all this money we have freed up. But guess what? We're still going to keep some of our salary cap space on ice so that we can roll it over to the 2022 offseason, to where you can build an even better team around Trey Lance. And even then, yeah, they can build a better team around Trey once they do that, but they can also extend all the players that they have on their team now and work out all their salary structure so that they put the brunt of the money on that year's salary cap. That's where I think teams can get really creative by pushing all their money to one specific year. And I think with the 49ers specifically, if they say to themselves, we're not going to win the Super Bowl in 2021, we think we can win it in 2022 and beyond, great. But just plan it out that way so that you can actually take full advantage of that, rather than fooling your fan base into thinking that you are a Super Bowl contender, that you are an NFC Championship contender, when I just don't think you really are. I want to get back to some questions, though. Korean 49ers asking me, the 49ers should, or he's saying the 49ers should do what the 2004 to 2005 Steelers did: stout running game, top defense, and not have the QB making many tough throws. Excuse me, everybody. I think that's a great idea, in the sense that you don't want to put the ball in Trey Lance's hands and force him to drop back 40 times a game, right? That's not the type of offense that the 49ers are going to be operating within when they have Trey Lance on their team. They're going to be running the ball a lot. And in fact, I looked this up because I was really curious about this specifically, was that if you look at the run pass percentage that the 49ers had in 2019, it was 51% going back to that season, right? If you go back and look at the Washington football team with Robert Griffin III, it's the same percentage. And then even looking at the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, the percentage isn't that much higher. It's at 55%. So I think the 49ers, you're right, Korean 49er, they can really find a great mix of running the ball a lot, not putting a lot of pressure on Trey Lance, and then having a really explosive play action game, a bootleg game. And guess what? All this stuff plays into Kyle Shanahan anyways. This is what he wants to do. This is part of the reason why I think it's insane that people ever thought Jimmy Garoppolo could be a long-term answer for the 49ers, because guess what? Jimmy Garoppolo does not fit the Kyle Shanahan offense. He can't do what Kyle wants him to do. Because of that, he limits this team. And yeah, like I said, financially, like, Jimmy Garoppolo is a problem. You can't win with him. But when you take into the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is limiting them on their salary cap table and on the field, I think it's insane to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo past a certain point, and to even expect trade value back for him, because you think the 49ers are the only team who's looking at that Jimmy Garoppolo contract as is and saying, wow, gosh, we don't want that much money on our salary cap table. I don't know any team that would actually want to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. The Houston Texans might be interested. The Denver Broncos might be interested. But even if they were interested, why would they trade a 6th or a 5th round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo? Wouldn't they rather just wait for him to get cut or to get traded to another team than cut? Because really, do we think anyone is going to take on that Jimmy Garoppolo salary? I personally don't buy that. So I just don't know what this team can have in terms of expectations for regaining that value they lost with Jimmy Garoppolo when they traded him. So I just think it's tough. I missed your comment from earlier, Korean 49er. That's my bad. Are you going to be attending the State of the 49ers franchise tonight? Yes, I will do my best. I don't know if those times cross over with Grant Stream, but we'll have to see. Also, I feel that Aaron Rodgers will opt out of the 2021 season and still get most or all of his money. Yeah, I know you've been talking about this, Korean 49er, how Aaron Rodgers has the option to opt out potentially, I think, by July 2nd with the COVID opt-out rules that say this. So could he do that? Yeah, I just don't know if that's how that's going to happen. I think with going to Aaron Rodgers for a second, I think he's just a hard guy to read no matter what. I don't really know what his motivations are or what he exactly wants right now. I know he doesn't want to be a Packer, but beyond that, I mean, I think we don't know what's going to happen if he's actually forced to go back to that team, or just say to him, okay, you can go back and play for the Packers or you can opt out, right? I mean, if he can opt out, certainly, yeah, I'm sure he's considering that. But at the same time, with the age he's at, with how fragile Aaron Rodgers is about his ego and what makes him great, I don't know if him not playing for a year is in his best interests. And that's kind of just where I go on that topic. So I understand the argument. I'm certainly not even going to disagree with you. I just don't know if that's how things happen. But let's get to the next part of this. Will Trey Lance start week 1 of the 2021 season? I think there's about a 50-50 chance of this happening. And going back to that quarterback stat I was talking about earlier, we're talking about the 13 quarterbacks who have been selected in the rookie wage scale era in the top 3 picks. Of all those guys, only 4 didn't start week 1 of their rookie season. And those guys were like the Trubiskys, the Jared Goffs, the Blake Bortles of the world. So I don't know. For one thing, I don't know if the 49ers are willing to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Now, if they are, and they're cool with just cutting bait with Jimmy Garoppolo right before week 1, and the only reason they're saying all this stuff and the only reason he's on the roster and all this stuff is to increase his trade value, and if they can't get what they want, then, hey, we'll cut him week 1 or before week 1. That scenario kind of makes sense to me, but the idea that the 49ers can limp their way into Trey Lance with Jimmy Garoppolo being the handoff for that sort of scenario, I just don't know. I really think I think the most likely scenario, like I said, I think is still definitely that Trey takes over as the midseason starter. But for the 49ers, it financially makes the most sense for Trey Lance to start week 1. In fact, Trey Lance is going to play all his rookie season. In hindsight, by the end of the season, you'll say, wow, we should have just got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo no matter what. But unfortunately, that's not how things always happen in the NFL. If Trey isn't 100% ready, Trey doesn't light it up in the preseason, if Trey's struggling and Jimmy Garoppolo looks really good, then yeah, he probably doesn't start week 1, but I think he overtakes him at some point, no matter what. So I think it's not impossible that Trey Lance would be the week 1 starter, I guess is what I'm saying. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers were to say, wait till, week 8 or week 5 or week 12 or something like that, and then insert Trey Lance as the starter. Because I think part of this too is I think we know the coaching staff is buying into Trey Lance. We've seen all the communication they've been putting out there recently. We've seen how they've been talking about Trey Lance and what they've been trying to communicate to the media specifically. So I think when you take all that into account, yeah, they want Trey to start as soon as possible. But I think the front office, the coaching staff, the people in charge at the 49ers, I think they would love a scenario where they can trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a 3rd-round pick, or a 2nd-round pick by, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8. And then Trey Lance is just not given the job, but he wins the job and they get value for Jimmy. I just think that's an impossible situation. I think the 49ers are really I just think they're gambling a little bit if they're going to be depending on that entirely. And what they're gambling with is the fact that if, guess what, things don't work out for Jimmy Garoppolo, that is dead money on your books this season. So I think part of the problem with this team is that you see them getting in their own way already, right? You see them saying to themselves, oh, we talked about having Jimmy Garoppolo on as the starter for this much money. Hey, Trey's taking over for him. He can just be the backup now. No, 49ers, that should not be what you're doing. I just don't know why the team would want to go about it that way. I understand they want to recoup their value for Jimmy, right? They absolutely do. It'd be best case scenario. But the 49ers need to be self-aware enough to realize that Jimmy has no value, I think, especially given his contract. So that's kind of where I want to end that today, guys. I'm going to do two more topics before I get out of here. Let me know if you have any questions about anything else you want me to cover. The next thing I did want to talk about, though, is the Ryan Ramczyk extension. I believe Ryan Ramczyk, it was just reported this morning, he signed a 5-year, $96 million deal to stay with the Saints. It's going to be about $19.2 million average, $60 million guaranteed, makes him the highest paid right tackle in NFL history. I think for the 49ers, this probably increases what they would have had to already pay for Mike McGlinchey at some point. But if you're looking at the extensions that they're going to be giving up, given the fact that they've already taken his fifth-year option, and that fifth-year option is like $10 to $11 million, why wouldn't they extend Mike McGlinchey at 11, 12, 13, $14 million? I don't think they should. I don't think he's worth that. But given what the team is willing to spend on him already, given what they're willing to put around him to try and make him look better, like Alex Max and Aaron Banks, all that they've put into this, they need Mike McGlinchey to succeed in order for the 49ers to pan out. Now, I know some people might push back on that, but to me, I think Mike McGlinchey is kind of the glue that's going to hold this team together, or at least this offensive line together, in the sense that if Mike McGlinchey isn't there at right tackle and the 49ers are struggling with that position, that could be a real problem for the team. So I would just worry about that. And I think the 49ers, like I said, I think they're going to extend Mike McGlinchey at some point. I think this probably raises some of that value, but gosh, I don't know if I would pay him that much, but I need 49ers fans to get on board with this now, because let's be real. Ramczyk in that right tackle position, he just upped the value of that position, right? Like 49ers fans are talking about extending Fred Warner, and they're talking about getting it done before Darius Leonard, right, the middle linebacker from the Colts. But when you look at this kind of extension for the 49ers, well, it doesn't necessarily raise how much they're going to be paying for McGlinchey. Well, what it does do is raise the position as a whole to a point where they might have to shell out just a little bit extra for him than they were expecting. And I just don't know if I'd be on board with that. I feel that you can always draft a right tackle, always go after another. It seems like a position that teams are able to address even when they don't necessarily have the position filled already. So I think from that aspect, it wouldn't be prudent for the 49ers to go and re-sign Mike McGlinchey at this huge number. I want to just go to Korean 49ers comment real quick. He's saying Ramczyk was an underrated recruit when he went to UW-Madison, Wisconsin, since a lot of O-linemen to the NFL. Also, Ryan was drafted one pick after Reuben Foster in 2017. Yeah, life would be a lot easier if Ryan Ramczyk was getting extended by the 49ers right now. But unfortunately, he isn't. And you know what? That's going to take me to the last topic, guys. I'm keeping it short today. Not going to be doing anything too crazy. Honestly, there just isn't a ton to talk about right now. But I do want to touch on this before I get out of here. Stephon Gilmore, again, he tweeted out the other day or today or very recently that the highest paid DBs in the NFL, essentially telling the Patriots that he's not okay with his contract as is right now, and he wants to get it extended or he wants to get traded somewhere else. So I think for the 49ers, should they trade for Stephon Gilmore? I would definitely consider it, in the sense that if you don't have to pay Stephon Gilmore a lot of money in the long term, I'm cool with it. If you can get him to multiple seasons, if you can sign Stephon Gilmore for 2 or 3 years, push most of the money into next season or this season, and then cut Jimmy or get that rollover money or whatever way you want to go about that, right? Get that Jimmy money. If you get that Jimmy money and then you're able to spend a lot of it on Stephon Gilmore, I think that'd be brilliant by the 49ers if they can get Gilmore to a multi-year deal. If this is a 1-year rental, I just wouldn't be interested in signing Stephon Gilmore or trading for him, him signing a 1 or 2 year deal, right? And then the 49ers losing him after that time. I know he's not a long-term option necessarily, but that doesn't push me away from trying to sign a guy like that to a 2, 3, 4 year deal. I think for the 49ers, they just need to find better long-term solutions at the cornerback spot. And when they keep drafting defensive ends, when they keep addressing the defensive line in the draft and they don't address secondary in the draft, I don't know how you can expect to build your team otherwise than trading or signing corners. And this is a prime opportunity to do that. And if Stephon Gilmore is a guy who wants to play for the 49ers, 49ers should absolutely do their best to go out and sign, trade for him, extend him, do whatever they have to do to make it happen. As long as, like I said, it's not just a rental thing. And as long as his medicals check out, I think that's the other thing too people are worried about with him. So I think if the 49ers staff is cool with all of that and they think that Gilmore is going to stick around for more than one season, I'd be very happy to have Stephon Gilmore on the 49ers. In fact, just think about the Jason Verrett, Stephon Gilmore duo that they'd have this season. I mean, it'd be incredible. If you really want to talk about the 49ers competing, this is a way to make them compete for the Super Bowl this season. Not like I've been talking about, where, they should compete for 2022 and beyond. This, to me, would be a way to actually compete in 2021 for a Super Bowl. If you get a lockdown corner like him and you don't have to rely so much on Jason Verrett's health for your team's success, I think sky could be the limit for this team. And you know what? That's where I'm going to end today, guys. I want to keep it short. Didn't want to do too much today. I'm going to be on later with Grant. You can check out his channel, I believe. 5:30 is what we're shooting for Pacific Standard Time, but we'll see how that pans out. Again, everybody subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Make sure you like this video. Just go check out all the other content I've been putting on. I got a lot of 49er stuff. If you haven't caught up with it all, trust me, I'm sure there's a lot there for you. So go enjoy that. But like I said, Thursday night, I'll be back with Hammer and Nails. I'll be on the Hammer and Nails show on Jesse's channel, I believe. So everybody be on the lookout for that. And then Friday, I'll be back on my channel with Jack Hammer. We'll be talking about the 49ers salary cap, positional spending, all kinds of stuff like that. So you know what? Let me know if you guys have any questions for me for that. I'd be happy to set up some stuff that Jack and I can talk about like that from you guys. So just let me know. Again, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Appreciate the constant support. I'll be back streaming more regularly. I know this is a little irregular, kind of out of nowhere stream, but I do plan on being regular for the rest of the week. And then once we get out of this July 4th weekend, I'll be back streaming regularly as good as ever. This is just kind of a downtime right now, so I didn't want to bombard you guys too much nonsense content, honestly. So that's where I want to end today. Again, I'll be on Grant's channel later tonight. You can look forward to that. My SI article will be coming out today, all about the Jimmy Garoppolo conundrum. I know I talked about that here already, but there will be a further explanation. I'll kind of dive or fully flush out every one of my thoughts on that article. So look forward to that, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. Enjoy the NBA playoffs tonight, and I'll see you guys next